It is not a crime. So why arrest Speed Darlington? Did he steal? Did he kill somebody? This is not the way to handle a civil process. If you feel wronged or injured by somebody's defamatory remarks, you file a process in court. I'm sorry to announce to you, you are getting it very wrong. This is what the law says. So hello guys, what's up and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and welcome to the third and the last video on our defamation series. A very important discourse because you and I, everyone watching me, can fall victim. So it's good we equip ourselves with this knowledge so we can be better informed. We started this discussion by narrating the PDD story and how it trickled down to Afrobeat musicians, with several people wondering if he had to get dirty and jiggy with our African superstars in order to give them an American platform. And since Burna Boy has a Grammy, some whispers here and there held opinions if Burna Boy was actually one of these men that had to go dirty and raw with PDD to give him a platform to win a Grammys. Singer Speed Darlington jumped on the matter and fueled that rumor, giving it a bigger platform by insinuating in a TikTok video that Burna Boy should come and explain why a few months after he met with PDD, he won the Grammys, asking him if PDD had done one or two things with him that led to Speed Darlington getting arrested and detained by the police. And this whole discourse and question on what defamation really is, on whether it should lead to an arrest, on whether it is a civil case or a criminal case, and all of these discussions was laid bare. And in our previous video, we opened up on that discuss. We are going to continue in this one. Before we go into discussing whether defamation is a crime or a civil wrong, it is important for me to draw the distinction. Now, it's important that I add here that defamation under criminal law, defamation as a crime, is simply defamation. But defamation under civil law is divided into two: libel or slander. Libel is defamation that is in written form. So if you publish a libelous matter, if you publish a defamatory matter in a newspaper, a magazine, if you write it on your Instagram stories, any defamatory remark made in a written manner is called libel, while slander is defamation made orally, verbally. Example, what Speed Darlington is accused of doing is slander if Burna Boy is bringing this under a civil suit. So it's important to draw this distinction because some people are always confused. They're like, what is libel? What is slander? What is defamation? How do we know the differences? Defamation is the key word, divided into two: libel, written; slander, oral. Both injurious. Now, before we go on, it's important that I mention that there are some crucial, vital elements that must exist before defamation can be substantiated. First, such statements must be false. So if that statement is true, one cannot come under defamation to say I have been defamed. For example, if one is a convict, you are a convicted person, and I come out to say this person is a convict, I cannot be sued for defamation. Why? Because it is the truth. Two, the statement must have been published. And when I say published, do not have a big concept of what publication means. It must have reached the sight or the hearing of the third person. Even if that publication gets to one person, that is publication when it comes to defamation. So if I write defamatory remarks in my jotter, in my diary, and I put it in my wardrobe and you see it, and you see the lies I have written about you, but you cannot prove that another person, some other person has read it, has gone through that jotter or journal, then it cannot be defamation. There has to be proof that it has been spread to another person. Thirdly, the third ingredient for defamation, there has to be evidence to show that some kind of damage has been caused to or suffered by that person that was defamed. So if the statement is so harmless that no amount of damage, either financial loss or emotional trauma or reputational injury, has been caused, then that cannot be categorized under defamation. So for example, in my video, I'm talking about Mr. John, and Mr. John stole money, right? And the stealing part is true. And I said, Mr. John stole. And when he was caught, oh my God, he was so distressed. He bit his finger, he shook his head. Now, those other parts that I'm talking about can be elements to exaggerate the story. Those other parts I'm talking about does not cause any injury to that person, as long as the base of that story is correct. These additions that are not injurious to reputation cannot be defined or categorized as defamation. There has to be substantial, there has to be an appreciable amount of damage to person or reputation. So let's go on. The next agenda for discourse is the arrest. I hope we're getting something. I hope we're learning. Some of us go as far as going into people's DMs to insult them. I hope you know that that can fetch you a 3-year jail term, and ignorance of the law will not excuse you. So I hope we are gaining one or two knowledge from this discussion. So let us discuss the arrest. People have argued, the Aquians have argued, that defamation is a civil wrong. It is not a crime. So why arrest Speed Darlington? Did he steal? Did he kill somebody? This is not the way to handle a civil process. If you feel wronged or injured by somebody's defamatory remarks, you file a process in court. The person gets served and employ the services of an attorney to represent him or her. And the judge would hear the case and award damages if he or she finds that indeed defamation happened. Why bring the police into it? Why arrest him? Is that not just a show of power? So what does the law say? I'm sorry to announce to you, you are getting it very wrong. This is what the law says. Seeking redress for an injurious publication or utterance can come either under a criminal process or a civil process. What is a civil case? A civil case is a wrong against an individual or a wrong against an establishment, a corporation, which in the eyes of the law is a legal person. Example of civil cases are torts, a tort, breach of contract, trespass to property, a scienter action for those that let their wild animals, they have wild dogs, they let it loose, it injures somebody. You can come under a civil case under scienter actions to claim damages for the injury that that person's animal has caused you. It is not a crime against the state. It is basically an injury to a person, to a person's rights, and it doesn't really have a direct bearing to the fabric of society. Remedies that are sought under civil cases can be maybe damages. For example, you can bring an action for breach of contract and seek damages. You can also seek injunctions. For example, you can seek an interlocutory injunction for a property to stop its sale pending the determination of that suit. I hope I am still communicating. So if this phone is a subject of ownership dispute between you and I, and the phone is in my custody, and you want to stop me from disposing this phone by selling it until the court determines that action, determines who the owner of this phone is, you can go to court in a civil suit and file for an interlocutory injunction, stopping me, prohibiting me from transferring ownership of this phone to another person. So that places a hold. You can also seek and get a mandatory injunction from a court. Mandatory injunction is like the court mandating you to do something. For example, if you bring a case of defamation against someone, you can ask the court to give a mandatory injunction telling that person that to apologize. So that's an order of the court, an injunction that you must go and apologize on that same platform that you defamed that person, or 3 other newspapers, or this or that. That is a mandatory injunction. It can also be a prohibitory injunction where the court will prohibit that person from further slandering you. And if that person goes ahead to slander you, it now becomes a case of him against the courts, because it now becomes contempt, contravening an order of courts. So there are different types of injunctions. So yes, these are the kinds of remedies available in a civil process, in a civil suit, in a civil complaint, damages, fine, injunction, those kinds of things. But for a crime, it is a whole different ball game. A crime is not only an infringement on the rights of a person, it is an offense against the government, against the state, against society. And we're talking wrongdoings such as murder, rape, manslaughter, arson, fraud, those kinds of things. And the remedies that are usually given under a criminal suit is imprisonment. There could be fine, but most times the fine would come with an imprisonment, a jail term too. It is a more serious and more consequential wrongdoing. It could lead to the erosion of the very fabric of society and human existence. So it is the government's business. And the remedies that can be given, the punishment that these kinds of offenses attract are incarceration, death penalty for capital punishments, even flogging. There's so many offenses in the north that still attract flogging. I hope you're aware. They'll tie you, give you better flogging on your back. Your brain will reset. Even amputation. These are the kinds of remedies that may happen under a crime, a criminal wrong. So do you understand the distinction now between a civil wrong and a criminal wrong? Now, what is it with this defamation? Is defamation a crime or a civil wrong? The interesting part of law is that there are some wrongdoings that are both crimes and civil wrongs. And interestingly, defamation is one of them. Any offense that attracts a jail time is not a civil wrong. It is a crime. And we have read from both the criminal code, as the name implies, criminal code, not civil code, not civil procedure acts, and the cyber crimes act, crimes acts. These offenses are covered in these acts, so they are also crimes. Under civil law, under civil suit, these inflammatory remarks can either be categorized under libel or slander. Both of them are defamation, libel or slander. While under criminal law, these defamatory remarks are categorized as cyber stalking according to the Cyber Crimes Act, and they are defined as defamation according to the criminal code. So there is a provision for defamation under civil law and under criminal law. So you may ask, Barrister Neze, so which one is more superior? How do we know which one to go under? Your choice. And the question whether Speed Darlington should and can be arrested for uttering a defamatory remark, an injurious statement, whether it is warranting of an arrest, will depend on which case the complainant is bringing and the remedies they are seeking. If the complainant, which is Burna Boy in this case, is only seeking an injunction, mandates this boy to retract this statement, to offer a public apology, to publish in 2 national dailies and Instagram that what he said was erroneous, to do this and do that, that's an injunction. And he's seeking damages for the reputational loss and injury, then that case would come under a civil case. But if Burna Boy has reported the case to the police as a crime under the criminal code or under the Cyber Crimes Act, then that is not a civil case. That becomes a criminal case. And the Cyber Crimes Act empowers law enforcement officers to investigate, search, and arrest any person suspected of carrying out or committing cyber stalking. It is in the law that an arrest can be made if that case, that complaint was brought under a criminal suit. I haven't seen the charge sheet yet. I do not know if he has been charged to court. But if he has been charged to court, I've not seen the charge sheet to determine where the process was instituted. Because if it is coming as cyber stalking under the Cyber Crimes Act, it will be instituted in the Federal High Court. That is the court that has jurisdiction to hear matters on cyber stalking. But if it's coming maybe as a civil case, it might be instituted in the High Court. I've not seen the charge sheet and I do not know how this matter was brought, whether it was brought as civil or criminal. But the answer to that question is, if Burna Boy is suing Speed Darlington in a civil court as a civil case, the Police Act is very clear on the police meddling in civil cases. The police are highly prohibited in meddling in civil cases, recovering of funds for individuals and doing all those things. They are prohibited from doing that. So the police should not and cannot make an arrest, effect an arrest in a civil case upon complaint, except maybe by order of court. But if it was brought under this criminal case, if there was a criminal report to that effect, then an arrest can be made and it is legal. Typically, such arrests should not be arrest on the spot. Such arrests should come with a warrant of arrest. So the police are supposed to go to the court and obtain a warrant of arrest, and upon visiting the suspect, show them we have a warrant for your arrest, and before you take that suspect into custody. Because this discussion is very, very important. We have seen several cases where celebrities, in quotes, they say this celebrity arrested this person just because of a post on Instagram. Why should you arrest? I know in some jurisdictions, maybe in the West, defamation is purely civil. It's purely a civil case. It doesn't concern the police and all of that. But in Nigeria, inflammatory remarks can either be defamatory and brought under a civil court, or it can be criminal under cyber stalking and defamation proper under the criminal code. So that arrest now becomes justified and permissible in law. I hope you're understanding. How these matters are instituted also differs. Whether it's a civil case or a criminal case, it differs. If it's a civil case, you go to the high court, you file your processes, you serve the other party, they appear in court. Arrests are not made, are not to be made. But if it's a criminal case, it's now on the discretion of the police. They can choose to make an invitation, they can choose to invite the suspect, or they can choose to execute an arrest. And typically, in reality, the police are very reluctant to continue with a case, even if it's a criminal case that is an offense against the state, right? Where there is no discretion on the injured party on whether he or she wants the case to proceed. In reality, the police will not continue with the case where the injured party has withdrawn interest. So if there is a criminal defamation case against you, for example, even if I, that you defamed, have said, I do not want the matter to continue, the law is that the police does not have any right to withdraw that case because it is criminal. They are supposed to continue with the case even if a Burna boy in this situation has withdrawn interest. That is what the law says. Although rarely does that happen in reality. On the next agenda of Speed Darlington's continued detention, well, there are words out now that he has been released, right? But he was detained for an extended period of time. What does the law say? The law says that upon arrest, the police is compelled to charge the suspects to court within 24 hours. And in circumstances that prove to be reasonably impossible, maybe the court is far away from its jurisdiction, then that person should be charged within 48 hours. So, why was Speed Darlington held for above 48 hours in police custody? There is a law. You know, sometimes we don't even know the laws that exist. So we make utterances in ignorance. There is a law, there is a provision. The law does not operate on a vacuum. There is always a provision for almost everything, even the ones you do not know and the ones you know. The law states that the police can apply to a court to detain a suspect beyond these 48 hours. And in this first application, the court can grant a remand order for a period not exceeding 14 days. And it doesn't end there. There is still another exception. Upon the lapse of this 14-day period, the court can also grant another extension for another 14 days if the prosecution can justify and give the courts good grounds to continue keeping such a suspect. Such justification can include either maybe the seriousness or the nature of the case, maybe very good grounds that the person committed that offense, or maybe good reason to believe that the person will abscond if granted bail. Shall I shock you? Even after these 14 days and 14 days, which is a 28-day period of legal detention, there are still other provisions that make it possible for the police to even hold you longer. So I don't even want to go into that one. So these laws exist. So in Speed Darlington's case, if the police has gotten this order from the courts to detain him beyond that 24 hours, then they are within their rights. That detention becomes legal. But if he was held beyond 24 hours or 48 hours, as the case may be, and there was no order of court to keep detaining him, then it now becomes illegal and ultra vires. It becomes an arbitrary detainment. Please note that individuals are not capable of effective arrests. I know sometimes our society is upside down, but technically, Burna Boy cannot arrest Speed Darlington. Burna Boy can only petition or lay a complaint to the police, and the police would effect an arrest. Well, that's technically let us not go into the real life occurrence, but that is what the law says, right? On the allegation or the rumor of not letting Speed Darlington speak to his family members, there are media speculations that Speed Darlington was denied speaking to his family or his counsel. He was just isolated and, locked up. If that is true, then that is a breach of his fundamental human rights, because legally, no suspect should be denied access to their legal counsel or access from speaking to a family or relative. Speed Darlington can choose to seek remedy, but not against Burna Boy. Remember that I had explained that legally, Burna Boy cannot effect an arrest. He can seek redress against the police by filing a case to seek enforcement of his fundamental human rights, seeking damages from the police. I know some of you will be like, Nezeville, where does that one happen? Police damages, sue police. You may not be aware, but a lot of cases are happening in courts. And suing the police for enforcement of fundamental human rights is also one of the very prevalent cases that the courts deal with. So, how do I think personally that this case would end, or how do I think it would go? From my own personal experience, I see that most defamatory suits that are launched in Nigeria are mostly done to teach a lesson, as a deterrent, to tell others that, listen, I can deal with you if you behave in such a way. Most times we don't see, especially these cases on social media involving celebrities and all of that, many times we do not see that those cases follow to the letter, follow to conviction. Many times there's this arrest, it creates a buzz, there's an apology, maybe a retraction, and the case just dies. So that could be a possibility, especially considering the fact that everybody's now begging Burna Boy, please, his mother is on her knees, he's an only son, he's an only child, please, leave our acme for us. So it's possible that Burna Boy might withdraw the case, or he might choose to pursue it to the letter. On that, time will be the one to tell. If any more concrete information comes out on this case that can add value and create enlightenment to us, be sure that I will bring it to our news. So what do you think about all that we have discussed so far? Do you think that insults, verbal insults, should be added to cyber stalking? Should come with an imprisonment, jail time? Do you think that Nigeria should scrap defamation as a criminal matter and make it purely a civil case? There is no need imprisoning or arresting somebody because of an Instagram post. Or do you think that no, there should also be some criminal penalties for that? Do drop your thoughts, your opinions, and everywhere you feel down in the comment section. So guys, yes, we have come to the end of this video and this whole episode. I hope you have learned a thing or two. If you're new here, you're seeing my face for the first time, or if you've been watching without subscribing, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, give this video a big thumbs up, drop all your comments down in the comment section, and stay glued because we have so much more coming your way. It's me, your girl barrister Neze, and this is Nezeville. I'll see you guys in my next one. For now, bye.